It seems like the combination of Dragapult and Budew have completely chased Charizard decks out of the meta. At UIC this past weekend, we saw 105 players bring Charizard Pidgeot into day 1, with only 9 of them being able to make it into day 2, and only 1 of them getting into the top 32. But Charizard EX is one of the strongest cards we've had in quite some time. It can accelerate fire energy straight out of the deck, and by the end of the game it can one-shot almost anything. So I still think there's a place for it in the meta, and the way that I've been really enjoying playing it is with Dragapult. This way we kind of get the best of both worlds. We get Charizard to one-shot anything at the end of the game, and we get the advantages of being able to play a slower setup game with Dragapult, item locking with Budew or drawing with Rotom, and evolving up into our Dragapults through Drakloak, and this gives us an onboard draw engine that doesn't rely on rare candy. So with this deck, I've been really liking to go second and try to establish like 2 or 3 Dreepies and a Charmander, as well as hopefully getting a Budew in the active to item lock our opponent. Hopefully the Budew will buy us 1 extra turn so that we can evolve up into our Drakloaks and establish an energy attachment on one of our Dreepies or Drakloaks so that we can start attacking with Dragapult right away. Most games, what I've been trying to do is attack with Budew and force our opponent to knock it out, and then use the Unfair Stamp to disrupt their hand while getting off a Dragapult attack, and then using back-to-back Dragapults to take 4 prize cards, while establishing a board with a couple Drakloaks and hopefully 2 Charmanders or a Charmander and a Charizard, so that we can use Charizard at the end of the game to take our last 2 prizes. It's a pretty reliable strategy and helps win some matchups that straight Dragapult has a really hard time against, like Archaladon and Goldengo. I'm not saying that either of those matchups are like super favored or anything, but they're definitely far more winnable with this version of the deck than straight Dragapult. Because typically a lot of the time in those matchups, taking the first 4 prizes isn't really the problem, it's the last 2 that ends up losing the game, and just the Charizard kind of fixes that with being able to one-shot whatever's in front of us at the end of the game. There are some scenarios with the deck where it's kind of hard to get the first Dragapult going, and it's much more reasonable to start attacking with Charizard early, and I find that that's pretty okay too when we're forced to do that. We can just use Charizard to set up some damage on a Pokemon so that we can clean it up later with Dragapult's ping damage, or to at least have enough damage on it to finish it off with Dragapult's 200 damage attack. This also leaves us some damage in play that we can move around with Radiant Alakazam later. We can do things like move a single damage counter to Evolving Basic and knock it out with Dragapult's ping damage, or move a damage counter to something like a Basic V Pokemon or a TL Mask Ogerpon or Fezandipiti to knock it out with Phantom Dive. One thing I have been considering with the deck is trying out a Radiant Charizard over the Alakazam. It's kind of a weird situation with that though, because sometimes Budew can slow our opponent down enough where we can actually get ahead on the prize trade early in the game, but I find that most often our opponent is going to take a single prize at some point. So using Radiant Charizard wouldn't really mess with the prize trade too much. It would just put them back on even prizes and wouldn't be that good. But there are some scenarios where we go down by 2 prizes in the beginning of the game, and having a good single prize attacker would be good there. I'm still a little conflicted on it though, because the Alakazam is really useful when it's good and it can let us control the board really well. But Radiant Charizard is just a really good card that could come in handy. There's also no TM Evo in this build. There's really not that much space in the deck. The original list that I kind of based this off of had a Precious Trolley in it, so there wasn't as many Poffins or Nest Balls, so there was a lot of extra room for stuff like that, but I had to cut down to make the 4 Poffins and the couple of Nest Balls, so I just kind of went without the TM Evo. It's been working for me so far. I probably played like 30 or 40 games with it, and I just haven't really missed the TM Evo. Other things that I would want is like a 3rd Ultra Ball and a 4th Iono. Like I said, there's not too much space. The one cuttable card I think is the 3rd Psychic Energy. I do think 2 Psychic Energy would be fine a lot of the time. Just having the extra energy in the deck to more often start it in our opening hand to get down a turn 1 attachment is pretty nice, so I've left it in there for now. The stadium could also be changed. I know some people were running like Temple of Sinnoh. I've been liking the collapse. It's come up a couple of times, but I don't think it would be too big of a deal if it was switched to something else. I think it's most likely to come up against decks like Archaladon or Miraidon, things that want to 2-shot us or 1-shot our support Pokemon, and it lets us be able to clean up our bench while also using Iono or something like that at the end of the game. Just have to be a little careful with it, because it can be a double-edged sword and let our opponent discard something we were planning to knock out, so that's always something to keep in mind with the collapse. But yeah, that's the list, and thank you so much to the channel members, and let's get into the games. Alright, this game we're up against a mirror match, and our opponent starts a Mimikyu. I was a little bit worried about that at first, thinking it was going to be a Snorlax deck or something like that, but once they bench a Dreepy, I figure probably going to be pretty alright. And I just attach my energy and Iona. Probably would have preferred to use an Arven there, but we did not have access to that. We did get a pretty good hand off the Iona, so that works out. I get a Budew with the PAF in there, and I'm gonna item lock. I don't want them to be able to like have a crazy hand like Candy, Dragapult, Crispin, Retreat, you know, mess with my board. So I figure item lock will at least guarantee us another free turn. And now we see that this is kind of a pseudo mirror match. Their list is quite a bit different with the Duskull. So knowing that, we should have the more consistent list because we're just playing the Charizard and Dragapult line. We can afford to play more ball cards and more consistency cards and stuff like that. Now, I don't Arven there because there's really nothing that would benefit me with the Arven. Like, there could be an argument to get Ultra Ball, and then I could grab like a tool to discard off the Ultra Ball, and maybe that was the correct play, but I do just decide to item lock, thinking maybe I can top deck something, or when they knock out my Budew, that I can Nest Ball for like Rotom or something and grab Forest Seal Stone with the Arven. Maybe I could have just Arven for it right now, but I don't end up doing that. And our opponent plays down a Grand Tree, which is pretty good for us, is what I'm thinking right now. Definitely would like to use that Grand Tree. The thing that I'm really thinking about when I was playing is if I'm going to evolve all the way into like a Dragapult or just into a Drakloak, and I think the answer is I would just evolve up to a Drakloak and use it to draw. But our opponent here uses Crispin and then retreats and discards the Stadium. They really don't want us to have access to the Grand Tree, I guess, which is kind of funny. They like probably should have just attacked with Dragapult. At this point, they're like, their board's a bit better than ours. I have no energy or anything in play, so yeah, they could have just started attacking. We do get a little lucky with the Drakloak top deck, but don't end up getting anything off of it. Now I can Arven for the Tera Orb and Candy into a Charizard if I want next turn, which looks like it's going to be pretty much the only option because they do knock out my Drakloak. But now I can hit into this Dragapult and start setting it up to be knocked out with a Dragapult attack later on in the game. I would really prefer, obviously, to attack with Dragapult here, but we don't really have that option. And now I Nest Ball for Fez, which is the benefit to hanging on to the Nest Ball. I guess I didn't really have a chance to play it, but yeah, these new animations are a little bit weird, a little bit jarring sometimes. This new fire animation with Charizard kind of screwed me up a couple times, and it just like, I clicked to put one energy somewhere and it put 2 energy on the Pokemon that I only wanted 1, but luckily most of the time it did it in a way that worked out for me. Now here I'm debating if I actually want to grab the Dreepy with the PAF in, and I do end up getting it. Yeah, it kind of feels bad sometimes in these Dragapult mirror matches to bench too many little Pokemon, and there is a time where I'm going to want to stop benching that. Right now I'm just worried about that Duskull sitting on the bench, and I don't want them to be able to like effectively board wipe me. So yeah, I choose to bench another Dreepy, get an Ultra Ball, and can start establishing my Drakloaks here. This is kind of a weird choice. I don't really need a fire energy now, so I take the Dragapult. And with the Charmander on the bench, the fire energies are a little bit better in the deck anyway. I choose to use the Night Stretcher. There's no point saving it. Like, my hand sucks, I might as well get another Drakloak and draw another card. Energy Search is a decent card. I think I could have Energy Search for Psychic and attached it. Not too sure about that, but now I got 240 on this Dragapult, which is kind of perfect. So what I'm thinking is now I can Alakazam 2 damage counters off of the Mimikyu onto the Dragapult and knock it out with the 6 ping damage from a Dragapult attack. Of course, my Alakazam is in the discard pile, so I need to find Super Rod first, but that's kind of was the real debate about the Night Stretcher. I was thinking that I could save it to get Alakazam, but my hand sucks, so I might as well grab Drakloak. Like, Arven is pretty bad in these types of hands. It feels super underwhelming. I do get punished for not grabbing the Psychic energy out of the deck, though. I don't know why I'm like, seem to be really afraid to use that Energy Search there. just thinking it's my only way to find energy off Arven, so I'm kind of valuing it maybe a little too highly. There I grabbed the Charizard because I have Arven in hand. I can just Arven for the candy if that's what I want, and it would be a little bit harder to Arven for the Charizard unless Tera Orb's in the deck, so maybe it doesn't really make too much of a difference, but that is what I ended up deciding. Here I'm just debating if I want to try and keep my draw on the board or if I wanted to evolve, and I do decide to evolve. It just kind of keeps my energy safe, and I know there's fairly low chances of my Dragapult getting knocked out. My opponent hasn't been doing too much with their hand, so I don't think that they're going to have like Boss, Candy, and Dusknoir in their hand to knock out my Pult, so I evolve and attach to kind of keep my energy safe. And I bring up the Charizard and hit into it for a couple of reasons. It denies them access to Fezandipiti. It also lowers the amount of damage that their Charizard is doing, and it would just feel really bad to two-shot their Dragapult with my Charizard attacks when I have such good math lined up on it to KO it with ping damage at some point. So now my prize map is pretty clear. I just need to not lose the game next turn. But what I'm going to do is knock out this Charizard and knock out the Duskull on the bench with the ping damage, and then next turn boss something and Alakazam over the 2 damage onto the Dragapult and knock out like one of the Dreepies and the Dragapult off of the bench. I was looking for some kind of hand disruption there. I think that my Unfair Stamp is prized. I was looking for 2 things: hand disruption and Super Rod or Nest Ball so that I could get back my Alakazam and take out both of their attackers, but it doesn't look like I'm going to end up getting into that anyway. And I grabbed the Forest Seal Stone because I have the Rotom in hand, and I don't know, just seemed like a good tool to have. It does kind of suck that I can't get back or get my Alakazam into play this turn. It's going to make it a lot easier for them to win the game, and it's especially going to make it easier because I don't play this turn out very well. I have the Tera Orb in my hand. I should 100% evolve the Drakloak with the 30 damage on it into a Dragapult. Unless I don't have both the Dragapults in the deck, I'm pretty sure I do. If I'm remembering correctly, there was a way that I could have evolved that Drakloak, and this makes it way easier for them to win the game. They can just boss up my Drakloak with 20 damage and take out the other one, so I should have evolved one of them, but the one with the 30 damage would have been better because it just makes it much harder for them to win. If I evolve the other one, they could still get Alakazam and move 10 onto the Fezandipiti and boss up the Fezandipiti and knock out the Drakloak on the bench, so the one with 30 would have been the one to evolve. And now my opponent is finally getting set up. We've both been drawing pretty awkwardly this game. They did get the first attack and definitely went ahead early, but I do find a lot of the time in these evolution mirror matches, the person that goes ahead early does end up losing them quite a bit. They did go ahead by 2 prizes, and that's usually a lot different. It's usually the person who goes ahead by 1 prize and ends up losing, but yeah. They do attach a TM Evo, so that just kind of makes me hope that they don't have the boss. And I think that, or TM Devo, not Evo. So I think that they're planning on, TM Devoing me, which is fine. I luckily evolved up my active all the way through a Drakloak. Now here I just need to get away to get my Alakazam. And Arven does work. I just don't know if there's a Nest Ball in the deck, and I checked with the Tera Orb, it isn't there. As you can see, the other Dragapult was in the deck, so that was a massive misplay and probably should have lost me the game. Definitely should have evolved the Drakloak with the 30 damage on it. But now I can just Arven for Nest Ball, grab the Alakazam. I don't know why I'm like being so nitpicky about the cards that I picked, but yeah, I can move the 2 damage over. I do evolve up both of my Drakloaks. I just get so nervous that I made a stupid math mistake or something somewhere, so I evolved them just to be safe and knock out the active and the Dragapult on the bench to take my last 3 prizes and win the game. Alright, this game we are up against a Gouging Fire deck. This is typically a pretty difficult matchup for straight Dragapult decks, so not really feeling the best about this. We did luckily start Budew and we get to go second. I could have benched that Charmander too before the game started, but I haven't really been playing around like Cloth donking us or anything. Maybe that's something to consider now. It'll probably be quite a bit more popular after winning EUIC. but my opponent is off to a pretty solid start. Getting an energy down on that Delphox is pretty scary. That thing can just threaten a, knocking out 2 of our evolving basics. We don't play Manaphy. There's just not the most amount of decks right now that are trying to attack with like Greninja or Delphox, so I haven't been putting in decks too much. Also with Budew, it does make it quite a bit harder for decks to either attack with Greninja or Delphox, so yeah, haven't been worrying about it all that much. We do get to play the Arven here, grab PAF in Forest, could grab, there is some kind of argument to grab Defiance Band, but the Nest Ball does leave the option open for Rotom, even though I probably should use it for a Dreepy here. Yeah, I do. Alright, so probably could have grabbed a different tool, but Forest is just a nice option to have in the hand, just in case. And then item lock, just hoping to stop them from being able to get a Delphox attack off. Luckily they put the fire on the wrong Pokemon. If they put it on the Delphox, they could have used the attack and stopped the item lock, but this burn situation it would have been just as awkward, but I didn't flip heads on the burn and I stay burned, so I'm getting knocked out in between turns anyway, so I might as well just flip for the option to item lock. We do end up flipping heads. I did consider benching the Radiant Alakazam as a Pokemon to promote when we got knocked out, but I just thought it could get awkward if they just left that in the active, and it could possibly buy them a little bit too much time. So I do send up a Dreepy. That is kind of debatable. My thought process was I didn't want them to be able to knock out both of my Charmanders, but I don't know. There possibly could have been a better option. We do get the Nest Ball, so now I can take advantage of that Forest Seal Stone, even though not really too sure what I'm going to get. Maybe just a Charizard and retreat into this into the Charizard and attack. I could probably grab an Arven and get Defiance Band and Tera Orb is what I might end up doing. I can't exactly remember, but let's see, 210, 240. That still wouldn't be enough. And oh, I have Alakazam, so yeah, the Arven with the Defiance Band will be enough to knock out this Delphox. That will let them use Fezandipiti, which kind of sucks, but it'll kind of make our bench Pokemon quite a bit more safer. So quite a bit more safe, probably not the best English there, but yeah. So I can knock out this Delphox. I think that is going to be the way to go. One downside to this is I can't keep my my energy attachment. Usually that extra energy is really nice to start setting up a Dragapult. I do have to retreat it off. I just can't get the escape board, but yeah, we are going to end up taking this knockout and getting ahead on the prize trade. So now at this point, all I need to do is attack with a Charizard next turn again to take 2 more prizes, and then finish off the game with probably like a Dragapult attack into that Squawkabilly. I do Burning Darkness for the knockout, and we got our hand pretty set up for a pretty good turn next turn if they do end up somehow knocking out this Charizard or just any of our Pokemon. We can bench the Fez, play Unfair Stamp, disrupt their hand, and draw a bunch of cards. That is, I guess the one downside to Unfair Stamp is it's just not a consistency card when the opponent isn't knocking anything out, and our Budew got knocked out in between turns, so that didn't let us use it. And unless they knock us out this turn, we can't use it, so it's almost like we kind of want them to be able to boss our Rotom or something and knock it out. I don't know if that's going to end up happening, but yeah, that Bravery Charm also makes things a little bit awkward. This is kind of where the Dragapult is so good though. We can't knock it out because of the Bravery Charm. We could draw into Lost Vacuum off the Iono, but with we are able to set it up to be knocked out by ping damage on the bench. So yeah, I don't know. That's like one of the coolest parts of this deck to me. It's just that when Charizard just isn't enough to get there, or the Dragapult attack just isn't enough, we still have the option to clean it up later without having to commit a full attack to it. So that is pretty cool. I get the option of Iono and Charizard off of this. It's kind of an awkward decision. I probably should just grab the Iono to have the option of Supporter in my hand. But what I'm thinking is I could possibly Lance next turn and get like another Drakloak and then maybe draw into a rare candy, but I do end up switching that out for the Iono, so that does make sense. Unfortunately, there's no damage to move to the active with the Alakazam. Wouldn't have been enough anyway. but yeah, we're pretty set up next turn to just be able to counter catch the Squawk and finish off the Gouging Fire on the bench with Dragapult. They do get the switch card, but oh, that is enough. Huh? Oh, all right. That was really weird. I didn't notice that when the game was going on. It lowered it to 190. I was like, wait, I thought it set it up for perfect math, but that was kind of weird. It healed 60 there for a second, but luckily it goes back up to the right number. So next turn, I'll just probably promote this Drakloak, play the counter catcher, and actually I'll probably draw first because I can get into an Arven, and no, an Arven wouldn't be enough because I need Dragapult as well. So yeah, this next turn I need to probably play the Iono after the counter catcher and try and just draw into Fire and Dragapult. I think we have decent odds, especially because I can Super Rod like Fezandipiti and 2 more Fire back into the deck to increase our odds of finding what we're looking for. I almost pop in for a Dreepy there to thin the deck, but mostly I wanted to shuffle the deck. And yeah, I don't want to put a Dreepy on the bench because I want to leave that option open for Fezandipiti. Here I'm debating whether to get 1 or 2 Fire. One of the reasons I wanted to look through the deck was to count the Fire energy, but I did not do that, and having more of them in the deck is probably better anyway, so yeah. We do get into a Psychic, which is kind of unfortunate. We definitely had better odds to hit a Fire energy because there's way more in the deck. Yeah, we get the Unfair Stamp, so now I can play the Lance, grab Dragapult, and all we need to draw into is a Fire energy. I think we got pretty good odds, but sometimes it doesn't work out like that, so we'll see how it goes. Another benefit of putting this Gouging Fire on the bench is they can't switch card it again. They should really only be playing 1 switch card anyway, like most of the lists are only playing 1. So I don't think that they have another one, but now they definitely can't use it even if they have one. I play the Collapse just to, I don't know, bump their stadium, maybe make it a little tougher on them. And I'm just going to instant charge here. There is really no point in attacking into the Squawk ability. I was considering doing it because then I'd be able to like have damage to move over to the Gouging Fire with my Radiant Alakazam, but if they got into a Dark Energy for Monkey Dory, they would move 30 damage off the Gouging Fire, so I would need a vacuum either way, so it wouldn't really make much of a difference at all. But yeah, we did draw into the Fire off of the Rotom, so that did pay off. Now I vacuum off the Bravery Charms. Once again, I'm always nervous that I'm making a math mistake, and yeah, we can take our 4 prizes and win the game. But yeah, that is the deck. I don't think I drew perfectly in either of those games, but I've been finding that even when you don't draw the best, there is a way to win the game with this deck. That's why I've been liking it. I took it to like a fun local tournament just to win some packs the other day and ended up going 3-1. I lost my last round to Goldango, but I did beat a Goldango the round before that and ended up being able to beat an Archaladon in a mirror match. But the deck's been feeling pretty good, and I think it's going to be the deck that I'm going to be playing for a little bit. Probably going to keep working on the list, so maybe I'll post like an updated list at some point. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and like or dislike, comment, and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.